Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the F124 Driver Career Mode here in the Haas F1 team. We are headed to the lovely circuit of Monaco. Fresh off the back of a couple of sprint race weekends, we are now back to a standard race format weekend, but on to an interesting circuit, of course. Monaco, tight, twisty, very hard to overtake on. It's going to be very important to qualify well. Historically, I've typically done decently around Monaco compared to the AI. So we do have an opportunity probably to put ourselves in a decent position. And of course, strategically, try and get that undercut working and then just defend like crazy for the rest of the race. But let's take a look and see. The weather looks to be pretty dry, at least according to the qualifying and race graphics on screen there. Just sunny. So we don't expect to see any kind of wet conditions coming. But we'll get ready to head over to qualifying in just a moment before we take a look at our messages. So let's take a look and see, of course, Drivers' Champion Max Verstappen leading. A little bit of cloudiness in the qualifying session, so it's not going to be totally sunny as we saw from the first little icons, but still dry. We are still on our way catching up to Logan Sargent as our first opponent. Couple of active goals that we need to finish. Didn't really get a chance to get them all done. Kind of lost focus, but that's fine. No big deal in that regard. Performance-wise, we've fallen down the pecking order a little bit. Slipped back as Alpine and Williams have jumped just a bit ahead of us. Still have a bit of gap to Sauber. Of course, coming off the back of a DNF is not ideal. But let's head over to qualifying.
Not all qualifying sessions are created equal. From the moment that a driver sits in a go-kart, they want to end up here, in the pit lane, ready and raring for qualifying at the Monaco Grand Prix.
So as we gear up for our first qualifying run, you'll notice something that I did stupidly, and that is I did not change my practice engine components out for fresher ones. So you can see that orange engine icon. Now, my essential choice was to either just go with it and hope that the engine components are going to be okay. They're a little bit worn. They're not, some of them are over the 50% mark, but it's not like, they're not in imminent failure risk, I would say. But definitely going to be down on a bit of power because of it. Because realistically, the only options were to either change them after qualifying and take a grid penalty and go all the way to the back, or change them during qualifying before I went out for my first run and have basically no time to actually do a qualifying run and start at the back. So I figured just stick with the busted ones for this, try and remember not to do that in the future, and just try and go in and bang in some qualifying laps, see if we can get ourselves up the order even just a little bit here. And then we'll just deal with the lack of power in the race, as it is extraordinarily difficult to overtake around the circuit of Monaco. But first lap coming to an end, putting in a 1:11.365, part of the earliest runners out there, so we're going to quickly be shuffled down. In fact, by the time we roll out for our next flying laps, we are down in P20. Now, the fuel levels are, you can only go so low on fuel levels, so you actually have enough fuel to do 2 flying laps. So I went out early enough in this last part of qualifying to go for 2 flying laps. You can see my fuel load, I'm at 3.7 laps worth of fuel at the moment. So we're looking to do a set of qualifying laps. A little wide through the hairpin. Gained a little bit of time in Sector 1 based against our previous lap, but not a great run through the twistiest bits coming down the hill. You can see losing time as we come out of Portier, getting the power down, trying to get down into the Nouvelle Chicane. So grab as much curb as you dare, try and get some exit, but we actually lost time on that one. So not a great run on this qualifying lap, but that's why we're doing 2. Try and get it dialed in, and of course, we are going to have to contend with cars coming out of the pits, but we essentially are geared up to go push, cool down lap, and then one more push lap. So across the line, here we go. This car's coming out of the pits and up to P19, or do we do? Actually, I do 2 fast laps. No, we lose 4/10, so we're down into battery recharge mode. So coming around one more time, starting up for the final flying lap of the session, just ahead of an Aston Martin who's on my gearbox through Sandoval there. Lose a little bit of time, but up the hill we go, trying to regain that now, headed towards the casino. Long sweeping left-hander. Car really wants to kind of understeer in the left-hander, and then the right-hander very tough to get switched back in. Front right tire lifts off the ground there in the first right-hander, and then of course the station hairpin. This one a much better run for us through there, so we gained some time there, but it's all about getting this exit onto Portier. It's going to be very important, and we actually get a decent exit, so we're going to find about 2/10 through the first half of the lap. Now into the Nouvelle Chicane, where it does get risky and tricky. Try and cut as much of the curb as you can without invalidating. We managed to pick up another couple of tenths through there into Tavac, and now past the swimming pool chicane. Get the car slowed down, and a couple of tenths of improvement now as we head into the final couple of corners past Raskas. Hard right-hander coming out of the final corner, getting the power down. We are going to find about 3.5 tenths, hugging the right side, short run to the line. Where is that going to put us in the qualifying pecking order? 17th. So not dead last, but not great.
Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
Verstappen puts it on pole ahead of the 2 Ferraris, so championship leader doing championship leader type things. Where did we end up in comparison to our teammate? We're actually just 1/100th of a second slower, so not bad. Another race where we're losing the qualifying battle, but we'll be off to the races.
Formula One returns to Monte Carlo once again today, home to the world-famous Monte Carlo Casino, first opened in 1863, and of course a certain road race first held in 1929. There is no greater an occasion, no more valuable a win than the Monaco Grand Prix. The prestigious Circuit de Monaco then is not all that dissimilar today to the layout that made its debut almost a century ago. It's 2 miles and 19 corners through the streets of Monte Carlo, and although the average lap speed of around 93 miles per hour is the lowest of the season, the tiny margins for error make it the natural habitat of the safety car. With the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. Charles Leclerc alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, Fernando Alonso, Russell, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Stroll, Ricciardo, Gasly, Sainz, Norris, Ocon, Albon, Hulkenberg, Oldtimer, Joe, Sargent, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes, delighted to say that we're joined today by Anthony Davidson. Now, those final hours before a race, did you have a routine?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Try to put the starting position out of your mind and just focus on the race ahead. We can still do a good job here today.
So here we are on the grid, taking a look at the strategy. Of course, going to flip it around, go for that undercut, the early stop, get off of those medium tires about as early as we possibly can to give ourselves the maximum ability to undercut. Of course, we'll try and make up some positions on the cars ahead of us. You can see me kind of waffling on when I want to pit. I think I ended up going probably around 14 or 15. But it's definitely worth extending the life of the second tire. Just get into clean air, especially since we're starting towards the back. So it's not the most ideal in terms of overall race time, but should get us good track position. So here we are. The 5 red lights are up. Our teammate just on the outside of us on the hard tire. Lights go out, and we get an okay start. We're going to be able to get kind of up the inside maybe of our teammate. We're just going to stick the nose in, go side by side with him, leave him space. It's going to compromise our run up the hill a bit, so we're going to have to use a fair bit of overtake on the way, climbing up the hill towards the casino. Somebody's tucking in on our left side, trying to get involved. That's Guan Yu Zhou. And now we can have a decent lunge into the right-hander. Should put us side by side with our teammate as we get ready to go through the hairpin. Very slow, basically a little car park. Definitely some traffic here, and trying to make sure we get side by side. This should get us the inside, headed down to Poitiers, so we should be able to just about clear our teammate as we finally get out of that side by side. Some wheel spin as we get on the power, heading through the tunnel and down to the Nouvelle Chicane. So one position up. Now it's time to slot in. If we can find the opportunity to get ahead of an opponent, we'll definitely take it. But the way it is with Monaco, it's going to be very difficult to overtake, especially they're on medium tires as well. It's going to be more about just kind of hanging on to them. So when we do pit and drop into clear air, we can close that gap as quickly as possible. As you can see, Verstappen has already finished the first lap. We still have 2 corners left to go at that point. And one thing we're already going to have to take a look at and keep an eye on is that fuel level. You can see the red numbers, the negative half a lap. The idea is to make the car as light as we could in the early stages and when I'm running the undercut. And then once everybody else is pitted and I kind of have a train behind me to execute the fuel saving strategies to get that back. But it's definitely something that I'll need to pay attention to as the race goes on. You can see we can kind of get up to the back of them in the slower corners, but the exits they get from low-speed corners, the AI traction is impressive and pretty incredible. But as we work our way through the middle of the second lap, comfortably ahead of our teammate, 0.8 of a gap. And then we are about 0.8 off the back of Alex Albon, likely not going to have, barring any kind of mistake from him, or if the cars in front of him start racing and going side by side and slowing him down, highly unlikely that we will be involved. Leclerc set a 1:12 on that lap. We go a 1:13.271. So not the fastest lap of the race that we've ever done. Our pace is definitely nowhere near what the front runners are going to be doing, but it's just a matter now of identifying the tire life, keeping that in the correct bounds, and then continuing forward. Very tough to make headway. Having to play around with the front brake bias just a little bit, get the ideal, especially coming down the hill, you're going to want to roll that. And our first track limits warning, actually. So a bit of a mistake for us there. We do have to be careful of that, because if we do end up leading a giant train of cars, and then we pick up a 3-second time penalty, it's highly likely we'll get shuffled way back of that group. And I expect that by the end of the race, we'll be kind of fronting up a train of a bunch of cars that are trying to lap quicker than us, that we've undercut through the strategy, and we're just going to have to be holding them off. So should be very, very bunched up behind us, I bet. I mean, a 3-second time penalty right now would put me in last place, because we're still, probably only about 3 seconds ahead. It's 1.1 to Joe. We're just about falling outside of that 1 second of the car ahead. Now, one thing around this circuit is pretty easy to manage the ERS, the battery power. Because it's so slow, you do recharge quite a bit per lap. So you can be pretty liberal with the usage of the overtake button to burn that battery. Of course, we will, as we've done in some other races, have the opportunity, once we do the pit stop and come for the outlap, go and flip it into hot lap mode and just continually drain the battery a bit more without having to micromanage when we're spending the battery power. Just an overall boost in pace. But I think we are, we just about held on to DRS this time. as we are now at the 1/10 of the way through the race. 4 laps done of the 39. So quite a few laps to go in this one, but it's going to be all about keeping it out of the barriers, staying, within touching distance of the car height. You can see how quick they are through Sandoval up the hill. It's another area where the AI likes to try and overtake, is on the way up towards turn 2, the left-hander near the casino. But of course they're then a bit slower on the way down the hill. We can try and catch up some time through Portier, the station hairpin. I think we're just a little bit off, and of course the new little chicane, but they're going to gain a little bit more. We're going to use a bit of the overtake in the battery. I'm just trying to kind of hover it around 50-ish% at the moment. Once I get closer to the pit lap of 14, there's another track limits warning. So we've got 2 warnings in 5 laps. I'm going to have to be very careful the rest of this race to not pick up that 3rd warning. As you can see, engine's starting to run a bit warm from being in the slipstream, the dirty air of the car ahead, but of course we're never going quite fast enough to really make use of it. Tires are a bit on the colder side, but that's fine. We're going to jump ahead now, lap 15 of 39. We've managed to hang on to the back of Alex Albon. Originally was planning for lap 14 pit stop, but I decided to go 1 lap longer because we were too far off the car ahead. So that'll drop us directly to last place, but we will have a nice batch of clean air. You can see fuel mix now down to 0.74 negative laps, so we're going to have to definitely save towards the end of the race. We're definitely not doing any saving now, because now is the time for us to get these hard tires up to temperature, hammer in some laps. 14.1 seconds the gap to Logan Sargent ahead. And out of the pits we go and through and onto the circuit. It's going to take a little bit to get these hard tires up to temperature. Probably the first lap, but they won't be perfect. But we should have the ability to rush forward and make some moves on the cars ahead, especially on those cars that were like our teammate who started on the hard tire, are very likely to be going pretty long, losing some time. So we may even be able to get in the mix with some cars that a little further up the grid. So starting 17th, we managed to get up to 16th by overtaking on track. Now we're targeting a few more positions based on the strategic change. A nice overhead view of the twisty, turny bits of the marina section of the circuit, past that swimming pool that the chicane is so well known for, or named for. A little bit of a tail wiggle coming out of the corner. Of course, this time, no DRS available to us, as nobody else took to the pit lane, I believe, on this lap. So we continue forward in clean air, get an extra lap worth of undercut timing, but we will start to see the AI opponents start pulling into the pit lane, probably starting with this lap. So trying to close up as much as we can on this one. Very much a strategic race. Outside shot at points if things go right, we might be able to grab some points. Probably 1 at best. But again, this is one of the races where we're second worst car on the performance comparison chart. I'm just trying to beat my teammate, which I managed to get a jump on, and of course with him going long on the hard tires, I should easily be undercutting him as well. He may have an attempt to go back at us at the end of the race, but it's going to be darn near impossible for him to overtake, even if he is on our gearbox. I would estimate that he's probably going to fall behind some of the other cars that went medium onto hards. But there you go. Batch of cars in the pit lane. We come out of the final corner. Ocon just about getting to the track now. We're going to try and swing around the outside, make sure we don't run into him. And we managed to move ourselves back into P16. And you can see Lando Norris down in the back. Maybe he had some issue. Must have had some issue if he's all the way back here. The McLarens have been a decently front-running team, aside from, well, the Red Bulls today. Look at the track map. The Red Bulls are going through the third sector when nobody else has finished the second sector of this lap. Absolutely insane, the pace gap that the Red Bulls have on the field in this one. But you can see the Alpine coming out behind. He's actually going to start catching us up because, again, we're not as quick as them. The AI much improved around Monaco, I think, in the F124 game compared to previous years. There have been instances in F122, F123 in my team mode where I would still be, first season pretty low in the car performance graph and, would be giving in representative results in the performance standings at most tracks, but then pop up for a top 5 or even a podium around Monaco. So Sergeant Joe in the pit lane. Out comes Pierre Gasly. We were not able to pip Stroll or Sainz as a little bit of rear locking on the way into turn 1. You can see our fuel mix now down to negative 0.83 as we are coming up just on about the halfway point of this race. But we're up into P13 now, so we've gained a couple more extra spots by virtue of the undercut. And we're going to see if we can't just get onto the back of Sainz here. I wonder, did Sainz start on the hard tire? No, he just came out of the pits. We saw him saying pit on the screen.
Okay, fuel levels now at 19 laps. 19 laps.
All right. So we're going to jump ahead, lap 22 of 39. A couple more laps go by. Hulkenberg into the pit lane. Sonoda into the pit lane. That promotes us to P11, and we still have both Alpines now quite on our gearbox. You can see how much they wiggle and look for a route through on the way up the hill towards turn 2, turn 3. But it's just a matter of placing the car where we can. Already losing gap to Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz in front of us, so they're going to dash off ahead. There's going to be some clean air ahead of us, which is nice. No dirty air to dirty up the tires and wear them out. But we are no longer going to have DRS to help us out down the main straight. So we are going to have to be kind of a little more smart about battery usage, and especially where I'm going to need to start lifting and coasting in order to save fuel to make sure we get to the end of the race without running out of juice. Flicking through the swimming pool chicane, always a fun combo to drive. It looks like a couple cars into the pit lane right now. Looks like Ricciardo is in there, Hamilton as well, just reaching the pit lane exit. Very squirrely on the exit. Power is down. We are going to get Ricciardo, but not quite get to Hamilton. So that does move us, though, up into P10. So we are in a top 10 position, the last points paying spot. And I believe seeing Russell that was ahead of us, not Hamilton. It was a Mercedes. But they've gone on to the medium tire, which they should be able to just rush away from us with very little effort going forward. And I would estimate that anybody else ahead of us that has still stayed out, anybody on the hard tire, if there's any left, likely if out in front are going to be far enough ahead to stay ahead. You see already doing some lift and coast into the Nouvelle chicane, to back here. So now it becomes try and save basically an entire lap's worth of fuel in 15 laps of time. And it's a decently tall order. I had to do quite a lot of lift and coast, and the other thing is make sure that the battery is in good charge. So you rolled it down to medium. And keep an eye on the mirror to make sure nobody tries to make a lunge down into turn 1 on us. You can see more lift and coast. We're going to jump ahead, lap 38 of 39. You can see the wear to the MGUH, the ICE, the gearbox. They're all still alive. We've gotten our fuel mix back into green. We're still in P10. Lance Stroll has been passed by both Mercs, but 26 seconds. You can see we're just getting through turn 2 and 3. And Verstappen has already won this race, so it takes another checkered flag. It's now just all about holding off, trying to score this 1 point here around Monaco. It was a lot taller of a task than I've had in my team modes in other years' iterations. I liked the extra challenge. I was having to push a lot harder. Managed to not pick up any further track limits warnings because I had to be careful about that through the Nouvelle chicane for the entire rest of the race. You see very casual and slow through the chicane. You look at the mirror, you can kind of see the absolute train of cars behind me. But a couple of corners to go. It looks like power unit parts are going to just about hold off to the end of this race. Through the final quarter. And use some ERS. Across the line we go for a top 10 finish around Monaco.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
They've done it then. They've won here in Monaco with an emphatic performance and a victory they can be proud of for years to come.
A great display of dominance today by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They've performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team.
Dominant result from the Red Bull team. Verstappen on the top step. Fernando Alonso still working his way into the top areas of the podium. P3 for him, and of course Ferrari on there as well. So a nice mix of teams amongst the top three. It was looking for a while like Red Bull was running away with it, but I believe Perez must have had a different strategy.
We wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Oh, that's right. Perez, where's he at? Perez, I think, had a spin? I don't know where he was, Perez. I lost him. But, big result. You can see Nico Hülkenberg picking up time penalties, which is crazy. Unfortunately for him, we managed to just have the two. Okay, there's Perez, P6. So yeah, he dropped down just a little bit. Verstappen with a commanding 66-point lead over Fernando Alonso, but we are trying to work our way up. Back at the base, another failed development, which is unfortunate because we really need developments to be working. Otherwise, we're going to continue to fall down the grid order, which is going to be quite difficult to deal with. Still on 69, creeping our way towards that 70 contract performance target. But of course, we're still very early days in the season. So I would say probably a pretty sure bet that we're going to go ahead and get the job done on that one. Let's get some objectives set for the next race weekend, which will be in Canada. Obviously, we will be smart this time and do our change of engine components. 170 or higher should be doable for 30 seconds because there's some nice long straights in Canada. In practice session, we should be able to knock that one out. Who else do we have available to us? Quality assurance. 45 seconds in fourth gear or I guess I went 3 penalties. And then complete a practice program, easy peasy. Definitely going to be one we can take on or drive in 2 different sessions, qualifying in the race even if we do no practice, but we drive 2 of the 3 practice sessions manually. So let's take a look at R&D. Let's see if there's anything we can improve. We're on 495 resource points. I'm just peeking at what the review contract things you can do, which you can negotiate a different target, but you'll lose recognition rewards. Interesting. Definitely not something I'm going to be doing, but let's see if we can try and get some developments that get us a little higher up the grid. 484, we could go for aero, but I think we kind of want to get this weight distribution fixed up. Don't know that we can afford anything else. Yeah, 593. Oh, 226. We could get improved MGUH materials. So we'll give that one maybe a shot. No, looks like I didn't. 484 for the Halo. I think I had forgotten what the price was. I think I'm just going to hold on to it because there's, I believe, some advanced time where we are going to get some resource points before the next race. Yeah, here we go. Resource points coming up on the 3rd. 100 points apiece, so we're splitting 50-50. Successful gearbox. 2 more failures, though.
Okay, mate,
tire
I know
wear
we're
and
expecting
power
some
unit.
new developments to come
More
through, but
failures.
I'm afraid to say that some of them have failed quality control.
Which is rough.
We're gonna need to tell the team
The
what to
constant
redevelop
failures
via
is
the R&D
getting...
screen.
It's getting tough. We could be climbing up, but we are still kind of mired at the back. But that's why we got to keep doing the specialists, because as you improve those specialists, you will improve their ability to, they modify your success likelihood. But tire wear is critical. We 100% need to spend on that. It's one of our worst positions. And then we at least get kind of a free redevelopment of that one. It's going to take the time, but we'll try and get that on the docket. But you can see now Cash App we've actually managed to somehow slip past Alpine with our durability upgrade. But headed off to Canada next. It's a track that occasionally has some weather play a role, so we'll see what we get on the weather front. But it's an interesting circuit, one that we usually do decently at. But I look forward to seeing y'all join me next time. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.